welcome back to my channel. My name is Julie Ambani, commonly known as Jules. On this channel, we love to talk about books, literature, development, and a sprinkle of other things here and there. If that sounds like your cup of tea, feel free to subscribe to this channel, give this video a thumbs up, and let's go. So today's video is not going to be a long one. I just wanted to share with you the books that I've read in the month of January. It's been an okay reading month. I managed to read at least like one book per week. Yeah, so that's okay for me because that's generally my reading pace. So the first book I read this year was The Undomestic Goddess by Sophie Kinsella. This was a reread. I was in the coast just chilling with my friend, and she will do a bit of work during the day, so I'd use that time to just read, and I wanted something very light, something fun, nothing heavy. So I felt like, I really liked The Undomestic Goddess back when I first read it, so I read it and I still liked it. It's basically about this top lawyer who's working real hard to get a partnership, so she gets everything correct, but one time she makes a mistake that cost the company so much money, and for the life of her she can't understand how she made this mistake, so she just spirals out of control, basically ends up just getting a train and not knowing where she's going. Then she bumps into a lady who somehow thinks this is a nanny that was to come for an interview, and because this lawyer is not able to go back and face reality, she just accepts the mistaken identity and becomes the nanny for this household. And she knows nothing about being a nanny. She knows nothing about cooking, nothing about taking care of a household. So she meets this guy who teaches her, and obviously they fall in love. Then later the truth comes out, but it was a nice, cute book, so I really enjoyed that. I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The second book I read this year was A Single Girl's To-Do List. It's also a contemporary romance, and basically this is a book following a girl whose boyfriend just suddenly breaks up with her, and she has these really good friends, her 2 best friends, who tell her, you've not been single, you're still in your 20s, so we'll create for you a single, things to do as a single girl. Some of them including facing her fears, traveling, doing things she normally wouldn't do, and stuff like that. And as she's doing these things, she kind of starts rediscovering herself, what she likes, some of the things she never used to do because she was in a relationship. She starts realizing that, she was taken for granted in the relationship and stuff like that. Eventually the ex-boyfriend comes back, but she's already known her worth and she's moved on. I gave this book a 5-star because it was so easy to read. It was humorous. There's a lot of laugh out loud moments in the book. It also really reminded me of my best friends and how they would support me in such situations. So I really liked this book. I will recommend it if you want an easy read, especially if you listen to the audiobook. It was really fun and humorous, so I liked that. The third book I read this year was Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I got this book last year but didn't read it for a while, so I decided to just read it this year because clearly I was on a roll with the contemporary romance books. Book Lovers is good. It's I went into it with a bit of trepidation because it's one of those TikTok hyped books, and I was like, I'm not too sure what to expect, but let me just do this. So Book Lovers basically follows a literary agent, and the other one was what? An editor, yeah. And there's an author who's written a book in this fairy tale town. So this agent, her sister, kind of books them a trip in this town because she loved the book and she found out it's based on a real town and wanted to go there, only to find out that this editor, who their meetings never used to be so good, was also in that town because he's from there. So it's basically, I don't want to say, it's kind of, is it enemies to lover? I don't know. Also forced proximity, kind of. But anyway, it was a good book. As with most contemporary romance books, it's a bit predictable, kind of, but I loved it because the banter was top notch. That's one thing I'll give that book. It had good banter. It also didn't have an unnecessary third act break. Like, yeah, there was a kind of separation, but it wasn't, I don't know how to explain, it wasn't that unnecessary, and they worked it out pretty quickly. So I liked that book. I gave it, I think, 4 stars. Yeah, so that's Book Lovers by Emily Henry. The 4th book I read was Shadows in Death by J.D. Robb. For those who don't know, J.D. Robb is Nora Roberts. She writes a different series under the, what's usually the name, the pseudonym, is that usually how they call it? Under that as J.D. Robb. So this series is called the In Death series. It follows a detective called Eve Dallas, who is a homicide detective, and yeah, each book it's like a new murder mystery to be solved. But the best part of this book is it also shows the relationship between Eve and her husband called Roque. So Roque, if I could ever choose a book husband, it's definitely Roque. He is hot, he is, you know, protective, he's a millionaire, billionaire actually. He's just, you know, the ideal quote unquote man. But yeah, so Shadows, I've read a lot. The In Depth series is currently up to book number 54, if I'm not wrong. So I've read all of them, but Shadows in Depth was pretty good. Like, of course, in a book that has 54 books, some are good, some are just okay. But the In Depth series, the books are just like a comfort read. It's like just watching a TV show, actually. So I found Shadows in Depth to be one of the better ones. There was, you know, tension, the mystery was good, Roque's life was in danger, so everyone rallied around to protect him and make sure his life, you know, he doesn't get killed. I liked that one. So with the In Depth series, it's so hard for me to say there's one I don't like, because I like almost all of them, but this one I especially liked. I think I gave it 4.5 or 5 stars. But yeah, if you're looking for a mystery series with a good romance in between, I will recommend the In Depth series. It also deals with a lot. It's just not mystery and romance. There's a lot in there, but I love it. The 5th book I read this month is She Who Became the Sun. I forget the author, but the pic will be somewhere here. I'm not 100% done with this book. I'm like at 70% done, but I know by the time this video is going up, I'll be done with it. It's basically an Asian inspired book. It kind of reminds me of the Poppy War, but done better. So I think I'll give a better review once I'm done with it. But so far, I like it. I've also just realized, like, for me as myself, I don't enjoy these war-related books that much. That's what I can say. But it's a good book. I like the story. I like where it's going. But let me finish it before I can decide on the rating that I'll give it. And that's it. Those are the books I read this month. I'm also currently reading All About Love. I'm doing a buddy read with a few friends, but I think that one I'll include it in the wrap up of February. But basically, the year has started well. I've read good books. I'm hoping it keeps going like that. I really am not in the mood to read any boring books this year. I'm in my DNF era. If the book is not good, it's going to get DNF'd. But yeah, so that's a wrap on this video. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of the ones I've mentioned, or maybe what you're reading, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.